That's right. Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. This morning, inside your spotlight on Now, we're chatting about food security. And according to the United Nations World Food Programme, 20% of the population in Trinidad and Tobago experiences moderate to severe food insecurity. Now, this report was made in June 2023. Around 270,000 people are at risk of hunger or missing meals, and 9.3% of children under 5 suffer from chronic malnutrition, impacting their long-term physical and mental development. Here this morning, to discuss the basics of food security and insecurity, I want to welcome the Deputy CEO of NAMDEVCO, Mr. Rayber Bowen. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Rockers.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and the viewers of Trinidad and Tobago and those locked in and looking on.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let us start with basic definitions. How do we define food security and food insecurity?
Well, food security is simply defined by having food accessible, nutritious food that is, year-round. Yeah?
All right.
Meaning that you can access it when it's needed and even when it's in high demand. For example, natural disasters.
Right.
Yeah? And switching to food insecurity is basically the opposite. But more importantly, being able to feed yourself in the time of need. Yeah? If you're not able to feed yourself, you're very much heading in the direction of food insecurity.
All right. So since COVID-19, we've been seeing different reports about people concerned about food security and things like that. What are some of the components that actually contribute to the world food security crisis that's happening right now?
Well, it would definitely be the war
in
Ukraine and supply chain, the drought in Panama would affect him. But more importantly, it's our consumption. What we encourage our stakeholders, our kids, the nation at large. Yeah? For example, if you're in a food crisis and you can't get the basic aloo, what's stopping us from consuming cassava fries, sweet potato fries, which is grown here and could easily be put together just as the potato, the Irish potato. Yeah? So that's one of the areas that I would say we can use to battle it.
From what I'm hearing you saying there, I mean, you said the war would affect the supply chain, the drought in Panama, so different activities that happen around the world tend to affect how we consume food, or what food is available for us to consume, right? How does a country then go about ensuring its own food security? Is it that do we have the capacity to be able to feed ourselves?
So COVID has demonstrated that our farmers are quite capable of feeding the country. But our consumption patterns is what would build that capacity. Eating what we grow, growing what we eat would help the farmers now to ramp up their production, which they have done during COVID.
Right.
Yeah?
How do we change that mentality of encouraging people to eat more local?
There we go. Simple initiatives. Switching the diet in the school feeding program. Putting out menus that incorporate what we grow. And these are some of the things that NAMDEVCO is entrusting to do in this coming year. Doing those little videos and showing persons how to prepare, how to store food.
Right.
I mean, a frozen tomato can be used in your menu just as a fresh tomato if prepared properly. And a lot of people don't understand how to store food to ensure that it can extend the lifespan to be able to consume later down.
Now, in the same UN document that I would have started the show by reading from, right? One of the things that they said that there are 5 ways that they can combat hunger, especially in Trinidad and Tobago. And one of the first ones they mentioned was education. So I think that they're definitely in line with what you're talking about when it comes to making sure that people have a better idea as to what you can do with the local produce, how you can store it, how you can maintain it, how you can achieve the same results using the local produce. One of the interesting things for me was that they also mentioned technology as a big factor. Do you see technology as a big factor in how we consume food?
Consume, maybe, but produce, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because with the pleasant climate in our to battle the food import bill and introducing technology, climate change has impacted food production in such a way you won't believe.
Tell us how.
I'll give a simple example. It was raining 1 week. Extremely excellent conditions for planting. And in 2 weeks' time, there were 2-inch cracks in the ground, killing ground provision. I mean, you literally see ground provision dry down like grass.
Yeah.
I mean, this is unheard of. I personally doing some home gardening and I was doing some root crops. I'm heading into 10 months. And when I check the cassava, it's just about 1/2 inch thick.
How big is it supposed to be by 10 months? Forgive me, man.
Ready to harvest.
Okay, in 10 months it should be ready to harvest. And so you think that the climate change, as in just the heat alone, would be one of those factors that contributed to it not growing properly?
Definitely. And I did it from the angle so that I can speak to it. I can see for myself. I could see the challenges that the farmers are going through.
Yeah.
So when you hear them say, hey, climate change is real, definitely.
But are there ways for the same technology that we're talking about to be able to assist with that? Because yes, we can see the climate change is real. If you see after 2 days no rain and fall, are there measures that you can take as a farmer to be able to mitigate some of these losses?
Definitely. There is simple irrigation.
Right.
Different irrigation methods that can be used, drip, broadcast, but more importantly, protected farming is one of the ways that we could definitely battle this climate change.
Protected farming?
Yes.
What can you explain what that means to us?
Protected farming involves simply growing under protection. You're not open to the elements. So in other words, you're introducing drip irrigation, shade covering, grow house.
Okay.
But you don't necessarily have to go high tech.
Right.
Yeah, the low techs whereby you could simply have a shade house, growing your produce under the shade house with some irrigation, and it battles the rain, the sun, and it feeds the plant in a way that wouldn't normally be fed with open field production.
Okay. And you think so? But I mean, in terms of capacity to be able to say you're going to produce the quantities that we need, how big that grow house, how big that shade house had to be?
Well, I have seen shade houses hundreds of meters long, right here in Trinidad, and it depends on the commodity that you're growing. Right. So simple irrigation and open field production would assist sweet potato farmers. That's what they do. So they're growing sweet potato year round.
Right.
Yeah, whether in the sun or the rain. Lettuce, hydroponics, aquaponics. I've even seen ginger being grown in hydroponics.
Nice.
Yeah. So protected farming is the way to go, and I'm seeing this being one of the key tools in fighting food security and climate change.
Now, one of the things over the past few years I have definitely noticed, even pre-COVID, NAMDEVCO have definitely ramped up marketing the farmers market that you all do across the nation. What marketing opportunities does NAMDEVCO provide to farmers?
And I'm happy you took me there, because persons saying out there that NAMDEVCO has to do better in what they're doing. NAMDEVCO is doing so much. Apart from the farmers market, the wholesale market, the fish market, we are increasing the hours and operating times of these markets. In addition to, we are partnered with OnQ. OnQ, you can now buy your fresh produce online through OnQ. More importantly, we have been assisting farmers in accessing markets that they won't traditionally be accessing. The fast food restaurants, they are now accepting local produce once it's being processed by NAMDEVCO. So by farmers coming on and registering into our farmer registration and having us monitor them, they are now open to these markets that weren't accessible before.
Tell me something. In terms of the things that are required, I had a conversation recently with someone, and they were telling me that a big part of the challenge of purchasing local, be it produce or anything that they're purchasing locally to get consistency when it comes to the volume has been a challenge for them. Do you see that similar challenge happening with farmers?
In some areas, it is, and it's affected by the weather pattern.
Right.
Coming back to the climate change. Climate change has impacted on the supply. So, hence the reason you'll see the spike in prices in tomatoes
$20
and
for a pound of tomatoes, dog. I see 30-something during Christmas. That was madness.
It was, but it came back down to supply and farmers adapting to the changing weather patterns and not just wholly relying on open field production. Yeah? And with the help of the government by introducing the $100,000 grant, farmers can now access this grant to now, and this is a grant, money you don't have to pay back.
Right.
You just have to justify the spend, and you can now use this to improve the technology on your farm holdings.
Have you seen many farmers take advantage of that?
Oh yeah, I've seen farmers did greenhouses, they put down irrigation, some of them put down mini packing houses to extend value to the commodities they grow in. They have done it. Even the fishermen, they can now use the grant to upgrade their fishing equipment, repair on the boat, put it in cold storage in their vessels so that they can extend the lifespan of the commodities they're catching out there as well.
Nice. Now, one of the interesting things to me always is that there's so many different government projects that happen. We've been talking about food security. I mean, every year in the budget, we hear it. We want to focus more on agriculture. We want to do that kind of thing, right? The Ministry of Youth Development and National Security, they've been on the show several times talking about their shade house projects and things like that. Are there any, or is there room for partnerships, or have there already been collaborations between NAMDEVCO and these various ministries that do projects like this?
Most definitely. We have been providing training for those apprentices and as well as internship in more the food value added to food at our packaging house.
Right.
We take them along the farm monitoring and introduce them to see what farmers are doing out there so that they can take it back to when they start their own operations at those plots that they're going to be given. Which definitely will bridge the gap from what is being done by the old and what they're being taught in school.
And that's what I was going to ask, is there a separation between people who would have learned the trade, like on the ground, just doing it day after day, versus those who would have gone to school and done the training and come and say, well, I want to show you how to do this, but the man say, well, I doing this long time, come here, what are you talking about?
Correct.
Do we have that separation happening there as well?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we even have it in the farming families. You've seeing now second and third generation farmers coming through the farming families. I mean, qualified engineers back in the field with their parents, helping them mechanize, helping them understand how to use the new equipment and the new technology. And as simple as putting a timer on the irrigation system so you don't have to go and turn on valves along the drip irrigation system.
Nice.
Yeah?
Well, I'm happy to hear of those things happening, because I think we need more of that for the continuation and for the growth and to make sure that we can feed ourselves at the end of the day. That's what we're trying to aim towards. Before we wrap this morning, any words of advice you want to give to farmers out there, or those of us in the country who are interested in doing better for our own food security?
So I want to congratulate the farmers on what they have been doing and the way they have been showing that they can produce. I want to say to Trinidad and Tobago, understand where your food comes from. Know what you eat. Eat what you grow. Have a relationship with the food that you're going to consume. And by ramping up consumption locally, it would only put stability into the supply chain, which comes out from the farms and our farming families.
So basically what he's saying is that you have a direct impact on whether this works or it does not work. It's 100% up to us here in Trinidad and Tobago to make it happen. Thank you so much, Mr. Bowen, for joining us this morning and for sharing your thoughts and answering a lot of questions. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. We take a quick break and we come back with more. When we come back, we're talking landslides, landslips. Is there a difference? Let's find out when we come back. Stay tuned.